Hey Todd, how are you? Can you hear me?
Hi, Greg. Good. Is that the real picture of your house?
I wish.
Good start.
Well,
It
when
just
I first came on, I thought this is gonna be in our face. I mean,
Yeah.
he lives in Florida. He's in our face here. Oh,
yeah,
that's a
as
beautiful
hot as it
picture.
is here, I tell you, I feel like, I wish it was. I can just turn around and just jump into the ocean because it is just unbelievably hot outside here.
Is
I
it?
mean,
Yeah.
the humidity is more than what is normal. It's just so humid here.
Yeah.
Everybody's staying inside and enjoying the air conditioning.
Yeah. And you live again where in Florida?
In Tampa.
Tampa. Yeah,
Mhm.
I think this is our third time you and I talking together. Of course, Hudson joining us now. The first time was when you joined VO Marketing Pro, and then
Mhm.
maybe a couple 3 weeks ago, you and I got together and talked. And
Exactly.
I'd like to kind of get caught up and let the people know what you've been doing
Sure.
and what your plans are and stuff like that. But it's a real pleasure and privilege to talk to you each time. But one of the things that I noticed in the little sheet that we have our interviewees fill out was that you grew up in Michigan. Is that true?
That's correct. I grew up in Flint, Michigan, and born and raised there, and moved to Florida in '98. So I've been here for 25 years almost, or I guess that is, was that 24 years? And what brought me here was actually I worked in television, and I was a reporter. And what brought me here was a brand new startup um, TV station called Bay News 9. And I was introduced to it from, there was a reporter, I worked at an NBC affiliate in Flint, and one of the reporters that was there, he was a news reporter, and he was dating a producer at the NBC affiliate in Tampa. When that station got started, um, she got a job as an executive producer, and she came up to visit him, and we were working on a series piece together, and that's how I got to know her. And when the sports, the station introduced sports and everything, she remembered me and came down to interview. I actually interviewed in '97. I didn't get the job at the time. It was for an anchor position, and then they had a reporter producer position in like early '98, and that's what brought me here to Florida. I've been here since.
I didn't know that. I guess I maybe remember that you were grew up in Michigan because my wife is from Michigan, Coldwater, down
Oh,
toward the
okay.
south part of the state, toward Indiana, toward Fort Wayne, Indiana. But
Okay.
I didn't know how you got to Florida, and that's interesting. How many years were you in television slash sports reporting?
About a decade. So pretty much like early '90s until I got out of the business in 2005. So I was over a little over a decade. I was in the business, and it was interesting. Television is a totally different animal, I tell you. But it was. I met some of my best friends. We still keep in touch with one another. Majority of my Facebook friends are a lot of television friends. I went back to visit Michigan early June, and two of the people that I visited were when I worked at the station in Michigan.
Hmm.
One of them, I stayed out. What I did was I grew up in Michigan, and a lot of people from Michigan went to go to Ohio to visit Cedar Point to, when they were kids and everything.
Sure.
So I
Yeah.
wanted my kids to enjoy Cedar Point. I always talked to them about how, fun it was. So we flew back and we stayed with a good buddy of mine that I worked with at the station who lives in Ohio now. And we stayed there at their home, and we went to Cedar Point and we drove up to Michigan. And on the way, I, put some pictures on Facebook. And one of my friends, another colleague that I work with at the station, she saw that I was on my way to Michigan, and she invited me over. She's a reporter in Detroit, And my family and I came and met her husband, and we had dinner there, and then continued on with our drive. So a good portion of my friends are still from television.
Nice. And did you like, see, I was in radio for 30 years and did a lot of morning stuff. And so it's, it's 3:15 in the morning that you're getting up and making $15 an hour. Television is probably
Oh,
better
yeah.
than that, obviously, but it's kind of a rat race, isn't it? I mean, TV
Yes,
and
it
radio,
is.
it's,
Oh,
I
yes.
would like for the sports reporting, did you have to go out and do a lot of live events, go and
Yeah,
report from
yeah.
studio?
Once I like in the market, Flint was a small market. I think at the time was like market 65, but it was a lot of high school sports, that area, just like Indiana, big on high school basketball. We were close enough to get down time to time to do things with University of Michigan or the Pistons or, the
Mhm.
Lions, special occasions like that. But mostly it was local. When I moved to Tampa, yeah, it was very exciting for me because at that time, that was, like I said, around 98, 99, Tampa had a lot of big events coming here. They had the college basketball Final Four in 99. They had the NHL All-Star game in 99, the Super
Oh,
Bowl in 2001. So I was very excited.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
when you get a job, when you move to another, in television, when you go to another location, it's all about what you're going to be covering. So I was very excited to see, hey, they're going to have the Super Bowl and all that. So it was real exciting coming here at that time.
here's a
I had a
here's a
question. Oh, go ahead, Dad.
I just want to follow up
Yeah,
for
go
just a
ahead.
second on that, but hold your question. So you have you enjoy going to see the Bucks, Rays, and Lightning. Question
Hmm.
is did you keep your press
You stole
credentials so
my
you can
question.
get? Oh, I'm sorry, Hudson. So you can keep
Oh,
so you can get
yeah,
behind the scenes and stuff.
I do. I still have some of that, but after, unfortunately, the unfortunate thing, after 9/11, things really tightened up. I mean,
Mhm.
it used to be when I was before 9/11, um, and you weren't supposed to do this in the media, but I was able to get some extra passes sometime for just friends, or at the time I was dating my wife, and I got her a pass to come down on the field with the Bucks
Mm.
game, and as an extra crew member. And now you can't do that. I mean, because when you go through uh, after 9/11, they would check your ID. They want to make sure you are who you were,
Yeah,
actually are.
yeah,
And but back then there was so much, you could get away
yeah,
with so much more.
yeah.
And so, but I still have some of it. I've kind of encased it in have a little plaque for all the my press passes that I had at that
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
I did have another question about
Mhm.
you, like you said, you talked about going to like events with the Bucks, Rays, and Lightning.
Mhm.
Growing up in Michigan, were you a Detroit fan? Were you know
Oh yeah, oh
Pistons?
yeah.
Are you
I'm
still
absolutely. I'm
are you still
still
that? Okay.
big fan. Yeah, I mean, I
Okay.
think I switched over more with the Bucks because the
Too
Lions
many
are
too
so.
many years of
I mean,
heartache, huh?
yeah. I mean, I still root for the Lions. It's tough, but I root for the Lions. Definitely the Tigers, definitely the Pistons, definitely the Red Wings. One of the more exciting things was when I got in television, I got to shoot a lot of hockey, and hockey, basketball, and football are the three best things to shoot. And I remember in Flint, they had the Central Hockey League. And there were two, Flint and Saginaw, Michigan had those leagues. And I used to go there, and our sports guy used to tell me, Greg, give me two highlights. That's all I need. And the highlight would be a fight. So if there was a good fight, and of course, goal scoring. And I used to love shooting that. And we used to, like, again, really get down to the Red Wings. I remember going there a couple of times at Joe Louis Arena, when the Red Wings were really beginning their run of championships at that time in the late 90s and early, during that time period. But yeah, one of my biggest highlights was meeting when I got here to Tampa. I was meeting Gordie Howe,
Oh,
He
wow.
was one of the nicest sports figures I've ever met in my life. I mean, he was being interviewed for over an hour and a half, and you know, he was just exhausted from interviews, and he still took the time out to talk to me. And we talked for about 15, 20 minutes about the Central Hockey League. And he was just such a normal person as opposed to being this mega superstar. He was talking to me like we've known each other all our lives. So he was awesome.
Well, I mean, you got to meet and talk to Mr. Hockey. I
Yes,
mean,
exactly.
he's kind of the guy that it's
Exactly.
named after. That is
Exactly.
amazing. Yeah. Well, good for you. That
Exactly.
must have been fun. Hey, here's the thing though. You think you've had problems with, the Lions and stuff. I lived there for 10 years and the Lions and such have been a little bit lovable losers. But I grew up because the Braves, the Milwaukee Braves left in the
Oh
60s.
yeah.
And so I grew up with no sports team there, baseball. So I started following the Cubs, and all my kids are Cubs fans. You want to talk
Oh.
about lovable losers. I mean, we've went, how many, 105 years before we won
8,
the 108 years.
108.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
we can, we can empathize with people that have struggling sports.
Hmm.
So,
Absolutely.
I don't know if you had another question, Hudson. I've got a few more. Go ahead.
No, I mean, other than I assume, your love for sports, did that come from you playing when you were younger and stuff like that? What sports did you play
Yeah.
growing up?
Yeah, I played football, basketball, and was a pretty good baseball player. When I got into high school, I was mostly football, and that's what I played. And I went to college at Eastern Michigan, and we were pretty good at the time. Eastern was kind of terrible, and then they turned it around over the time period I was there. But yeah, that's what I played. I mean, my again, my city was big with football, but basketball was really huge in that part of the country. I mean, a lot of people from Flint went on to play in the NBA or, make it pretty big in Division I schools. So but
Did some of
that
the
was pretty much a deal.
did some of the Fab Four, didn't somebody come from
No,
there?
what was after it was afterwards. Michigan State, their run in the late '90s, early 2000s, they had three players from Flint,
Okay.
and they won the NCAA in
Wow.
2000. And that was one guy from my high school, Charlie Bell, Mateen Cleaves played at Flint Northern,
Wow.
played a little bit in the NBA. Charlie did as well, and Morris Peterson
That's right.
played a while
Wow.
in the NBA, and he was from Flint Northwestern. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I remember living there. Flint was a big hotbed of great sports talent, especially basketball. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. And
Exactly.
did did you get back to Flint? I mean, that's had some trouble, not to talk a lot about the
Yeah,
economics
yeah.
and stuff, but they, because of the car automotive stuff, are they doing a
Hmm.
little better, or is it still pretty
It's
depressed there?
still, I mean, they still have a lot of work to do. I mean, it's a shame because, I knew the city from when it was thriving.
Yeah.
And like, for example, I was going back, showing my kids and everything, the city, and a lot of our high schools are closed.
Mhm.
So the only high school of the four major, what is considered class A schools, the big schools, because there was class A, B, C, D, things like that, depending on the population of the school. Um, my high school, which was Flint Southwestern, which merged with another school, they now call it Southwestern Academy. That's the only one that's open, whereas other rival schools are now closed. So it's just a shame to go back and see. I was showing them my wife and my kids, and they were all, saying, this looks nice. I mean, it just need to be open and kept,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
grass mowed, and you see this nice school where there's a track around it and everything, and nothing's happening.
Yeah.
Mm.
And there's just so many memories that I can bring up about, the sports there and that town that is just unbelievable, and it's just all gone. It's just a
Mm.
shame.
I didn't know that. I did not know that all the Flint schools were closed down except for one. That's brand new
Yeah, yeah,
news to
that
me.
one's closed. I mean, there's some that's open, but majority are closed.
The
Like my
major
elementary
ones.
school is
Mm,
closed.
mm.
I took them by there. It's just and you see some of the plants, like some of the plants that, I drove them by, and my wife was obviously see that this was a plant here. There was one of the GM plants. One of the Buicks, Flint was known as Buick City. I mean, they made a lot of
Yeah.
Buicks there.
Hmm.
And there was there's an expressway within the city, 475, where you get on that, and when you look to the left, Buick City used to be there. And it was just a massive amount of cars just in the lot, ready to be shipped out.
Hmm.
And now it's all gone. It's just a shame. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was just a shame to see that.
Yeah. Greg, I'd like to spend, we wanted to keep you about a half an hour here and
Sure.
talk a little bit about your life and then your voiceover life and your
Mhm.
career here.
Mhm.
So I wanted to kind of move in that direction. But just before we do, give us a little information about your wife and two children. You've been married how long, and what's her name? And
I've been married since 2002, and my wife's name is Ingrid, and she is. I always say I'm married to the United Nations because she is from Canada,
okay.
and but her parents grew up in Jamaica, and her dad is Chinese Jamaican, and I met her through a blind date, and from a colleague from the TV station in Tampa, and yeah, the friend that told me, I always tell this story. This story, it gets me in trouble from time to time because the person that wanted to get us together, I was asking what she looks like, and so she said that she's Jamaican Chinese, very pretty, and so we all met at Outback Steakhouse. The two of us met there, and I always said I got there to the restaurant first because I wanted to see what she looked like. If not, I was going to get up and leave. But I wouldn't have really done that. But when she got out of the car and I saw her, I was like, hey, I think I could stick around a little while because she was beautiful and blew me away. And so I've been married to her since 2002. We met in '99, and we have two kids, two girls. One is going to be a senior in high school this year, and we adopted a young child that's 10 years old. We adopted her at birth, so she's 10. Her name is Madison. My first daughter is named Maya.
Well, I'm glad you told us that story. That's funny. And I wonder what your wife's side of the story is. If she was looking probably too.
Exactly.
You're lucky she stayed at the restaurant with you.
Exactly.
Yeah. So tell us, Greg, about we met a couple 3 weeks ago about the fact that you were wanting, to talk through the idea of maybe going full time. Voiceover. You've been doing voiceover for 5.5 years or so, part-time, working full-time. It seems like your career is on an upward trend. Tell us what give us a little bit of an update. What have you been thinking since you and I talked last time?
Well, it's going well. I mean, I've booked 5 jobs or 6 jobs since being kind of on a break here from work. And I've made right now this year as much as I made last year. So I matched that. And, I talked to you about this time that I want to hopefully maybe double that figure if I, continue on to the end of the year. So each year since 2020, 2021, I kind of doubled my salary with voiceover. So I just feel like, hey, what it would look like if I was doing this full time. And so I'm just kind of thinking, if I'm putting more effort into it, would that figure leap 2 times or 3 times what I've made? So I, feel very optimistic about it. Some of the jobs that I've gotten have been pretty good paying jobs. I mean, I've lucked out on those over the last 2 years, I would say, and got some pretty good clients from those individuals. Last year, I did a national commercial for Ford, and that kind of sprung to this advertising agency hiring me for two jobs. One I did for St. Jude's and Georgia Power that paid pretty darn well. And so I just feel like if I had more time, maybe more of those opportunities would come my way. So, but right now I would say it's going well, and I want to keep the momentum going.
You took a little bit of a hiatus or a break. Did you end up doing that? And that was going to be about a month. Your supervisor said that she was all behind that. And so where are you at are you like 2 weeks in or?
Yeah, well, I got 2 more weeks to go and then I'll head back to work. So I'm about 4 weeks in right now, and it's going well. I mean, it's just a matter of me organizing myself, making decisions on, my marketing, how I'm approaching that, and just having more time to do it. I mean, I just don't have a whole lot of time to do it. At the end of the day, talking all day on the phone and doing sales, I'm exhausted. And then I've had what's kind of slowed the process a little bit is, I've been doing audiobooks, which has been a good thing. I mean, I've made good money this year on audiobooks, and I've done more audiobooks than I've done in this year than I've done almost overall. And one book I just finished and I talked to you about that, it was 133,000 words. I was exhausted.
Wow.
And I just finished the pickups for it. And so I finally got that done. And then there's 2 other books that I'm just waiting on production. I'm working on one. Pickups isn't as bad. That book isn't as long. But I've been able to make pretty good money doing audiobooks this year, which is surprising because prior I had done a total of, I think, 8 audiobooks since I started doing this, and I've done 6 this year. So been busy. So I that's one of the things that I just feel like if I had more time, I could really feel like I could be successful in my business.
What have you been concentrating on? You mentioned a few of those, but like this time that you're off work, you've been focusing on your marketing, things like that. What type of stuff have you been doing, may I ask?
I've been sending out and calling. Just this past Friday, I did a lot of calling out to production companies. I've been doing some personal meetups, just getting out and meeting networking events. So I've done like 4 of those. Those may not be the best, but I feel like I want to get out and still just get out there. You never know who you may meet. So I want to get out and meet people face to face, tell them who I am, pass out my business card. So I've been doing that, and just listening to a lot of networking seminars as well, either through LinkedIn or online that I've scheduled time for as well. But following up on some of my warm responses, I actually got a job, pretty good paying job from one of my warm responses that I had with you guys. It was a e-learning job that I got, and that one is going to pay like almost $4,000. I mean, it's like $3,700. So
yeah, we heard that.
Very excited about that. So
my dad told us the story about that. That was,
it's like, I was like, it's like, I mean, if I had the specs right, it was like $185 per finished minute. I'd like take that all day long, Greg. I mean, it's that's amazing. That's good corporate, that's really good corporate money, let alone e-learning. So boy, that'd be a nice client.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
You've been recently, like, it seems like every time we have an update for VO Marketing Pro, Greg Campbell got a job. Greg Campbell got Greg Campbell got an audition. It's like, and we've used you with other people because you've stayed with VO Marketing Pro for almost 2 years now, and we keep trying to get people to understand. It sounds self-serving, but it's really just you have to do it. You just got to stay in there and market. And it's like going out there and giving your business card. You never know where that's going to land. You never know whether there's going to be a referral. You never know where they're going to put you in a folder and say, hey, we're waiting for that project and we're going to get back with Greg Campbell. And that's what seems to be happening with you now. You're getting some traction.
Yeah. And one of the jobs that I was telling Joe about is that I got was from an email from February of 2021. And the guy sent me, an email about, hey, we want to hire you for, a client wants to hire you for a job coming up, and it's a PSA. So I did that, and it's a 60-second, and I might do a 30-second for them as well. And so I was surprised by that, because I was able to just type in their email, and it popped up, and it showed originally they contacted me from you guys. That was February of 2021. So, you never know. You never know.
Yeah. So, well, I'm glad to hear that you're doing, the direct calling, and and you're on the phone all the time. You're like my son, Drew, who doesn't mind doing cold calling. He's like he's 1 in 1,000 people that don't mind. You must be a little bit like that, even though you do that for a living. You're good on your feet, I'm sure. And you can think on your feet and stuff. And that's quite a good skill. And there's a connection there that even an email doesn't give you. There's a personal connection. You're talking to the voiceover talent, and you're talking to the person that hires voiceover talent, which is a connection even better, I think, than an email. So I'm glad for you. Good job.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hudson, any other thoughts that you have? I have a couple more questions, but I don't want to keep.
No, I've just to drive that point home. Like Greg said, I've had times where I haven't even gotten a response from somebody that I've sent an email out for. And all of a sudden I'll get an email like, hey, we'd like to find out what a quote is for you. And it's like a year and a half later. Like, it was some of the batch of my first emails. And like I said, they didn't respond to that first email back a year ago, but then they're responding to it now. It's like, oh, I just figured that was an email that was basically just thrown away. Well, now that comes a warm lead. And so that's just the point of just, even though maybe you're not getting warm replies at some times, or even a response, that could still come back at some point. And so it's still out there. So that's just the optimism you have to say that, hey, maybe I got one warm response this month, but there's still those emails out there. Anyway, I just want to remind people of that.
And
Absolutely.
Greg, just one other question, and we can, if you have some thoughts or anything like that, we can start kind of winding this down. But you mentioned that you're on voices.com, ACX,
Pro Audio,
Find. I'm not familiar with Find Away Voices and really Pro Audio. I'm familiar with Tainter Audiobooks and the others. Where you don't have to give away the secret here, but are Find Away Voices? Is that a audiobook?
Yes.
Production company.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
Where would you? What do you do with? Do you always do per finished minute,
yes.
or you don't do any royalty share? Do you?
No royalty share at all.
Yeah.
When I first started out with ACX, I did just to kind of get experience. But what I see with that is really not much of a return, unless the book's a bestseller. For you to, it's just, audiobooks is work. So I mean, I want to get compensated for that. So I don't do any unless it's a case by case scenario. I normally try to get some sort of compensation for it. I mean, I had a good friend of mine from high school or grade school that wrote a book, and I just kind of gave him sort of a discount on one of his books, but I wanted to get some sort of compensation. I don't do royalty share anymore.
I did 30 audiobooks early on in my career. I stopped doing those, but do you see yourself, as you get busier with commercial work, corporate work, things like that, do you see yourself slowly not doing audiobooks, or is it something that you have a passion for that you said, no, I'd like to do them? It's not just a financial, for me, it was a financial thing. I just said, you know what, I can make more money doing this than that. And it served its purpose, the first few years. But after that, it was more just a financial, logical, there wasn't a passion to do audiobooks, but some people really like it. Are you that type of a person?
I think that I more lean towards, it's weird, and I don't get those opportunities the most, but I think I do a better job on, I really like doing documentaries more than I do audiobooks. But I mean, I think it's something that I enjoy doing audiobooks because I like good writing, with anything. I think maybe that's just my background coming from news and sports, is that I know how important writing is. And so for me, when I get a script, certain words make me light up, and I'm ready to do this for you. And that's how I feel sometimes with a book. When I read a good script, I'm like, hey, I'll do this, absolutely. So for me, I don't think I'll put it away, even though, yes, if I have more opportunities in commercials and e-learning and things like that. But for me, it's always been that way. Even with commercials or with, certain script, when I get the script and I say, this is me, I know I can do this. I know I can be successful with this. So that's how I approach it.
Well, Greg, it's a pleasure to know you and a privilege to get to talk with you. And we're really appreciative of, you being part of our group and being a good example of hanging in there. And I hope, wish you all the best of luck going forward. Keep us informed, especially, let me know what's happening with these next few days and such, as you're continuing to make decisions, or at least kind of plan things out and scope things out. Like to hear what's going on.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys bringing me on. Absolutely. It's been a lot of fun, and I thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks for taking the time.
And Greg, we'll let you turn around now, take off your headphones, and run to the ocean there.
Jump on in.
Thanks so much, Greg. Take care. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Take care, guys.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Are you dying to see more content like that? Check out the video over here, or subscribe over here. Thanks.